Hello, welcome back or welcome. I hope you're doing great today. Today I wanted to share a little bit about what's inspiring me lately because I have been spending so much time on Pinterest. Like I always do, but lately it's been somebody needs to take Pinterest away from me. Actually, don't do that. I have been really inspired because for the last couple weeks I have been just constantly painting, and I think I mentioned that before. That is not always the case because it's so hard, but it is often that I would just be struck with the worst art block ever. And I felt like I wanted to share a little bit about what I have been working on and also what things I want to work on. So I've got my tablet right here and I am going to go through my Pinterest and talk a little bit about inspiration because I think that one of my most favorite things to see online is other artists sharing things that inspire them, and I don't know, hopefully something inspires you as well. When I think about the things that I personally like to paint, there's different categories because I have more like in a technical side, like what do I actually like to see on the canvas, and I'm gonna start with that. So for as many years as I have been painting, I've started painting seriously since I was, I guess, 17. And forever my favorite subject has always been portraits. I don't really know if there's like a deeper meaning to it because I know that if you look, you will find. So there's probably some deeper meaning to why I love portraits so much. But the one that I am aware of, my conscious reason why I love painting portraits, is that I love faces and the work that goes behind making a face resemble the person that you're trying to paint. I think that my favorite thing to paint in general, including like within the face, is eyes, but specifically like makeup. I love painting dramatic makeup. I love painting those really red cheeks. I love painting eyeshadow all around the eye. I love that. I love the color on the face. And I love the shapes of the face too. Like when you're painting a face, I don't know, for me, unbeatable. But I would say that besides portraits, I love landscapes, even though I don't paint them as much, but I love having them as backgrounds. So yeah, I would say that's my favorite thing to paint, faces and landscapes. But lately I have been trying to widen out a little bit my comfort zone because whole bodies, like full bodies, I love to see it. I love to see other artists work on it. But myself, I don't know why. I was so like apprehensive of working on them. But lately I have been challenging myself to try to do better because I do not have a formal education in art. I have been doing little classes here and there, like 2 or 3 sessions of class, like really short courses, and a lot of just self-taught like through YouTube videos and all of that. So there's still a lot I've got to learn, and I guess we all have a lot to learn forever. As long as you're alive, you're still learning. But let me not be dramatic. I have a lot to learn, and I for a long time just decided to stay on my comfort zone. And here's the thing, my feelings are divided because some days I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that, and other days I'm like, that is hindering you. So I mean, I myself don't really know exactly the answer to that because I am also trying to find it. But I would say, even though obviously I want to strive to just get out of my comfort zone and try to learn new things and experiment, but at some point you just gotta go back to your comfort zone. There's days where you just have to be there, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good balance. I think you gotta try to go out, but you gotta know your comfort zone is there to go back to. I like that. That's gonna be my new that's my stance on that. That being said, I do tend to stay in my comfort zone a little more than I would like to admit. So for these last couple paintings, I have been just experimenting a lot with that. Like I have been looking up a lot of inspiration for art that makes me want to paint full bodies, because one of my main sources of inspiration is photography or video. Like, I love to see other painters work, of course, and that I love it. I love it. But when it comes to when I work on my art, I don't know, I feel like I have found a lot of inspiration on the real world, and then managing to just kind of transfer that real world into what I see in my mind to the canvas, right? So yeah, I just have been looking for a lot of inspiration with poses, with different postures, and little by little trying to get out of just painting portraits. And when I say little by little, I mean very literally. Like, I started by just going down the shoulder, and then ooh, do we see some chest? Oh, hips, and then eventually I'll get that full body, right? So yeah, I'll show a little bit of some of the paintings that I've worked on recently that have helped me get out of that comfort zone. But I have been enjoying it so much, and I don't regret it at all. I'm so glad I did it. There are some days where it gets difficult and I'm like, I should have just painted a face. What am I doing here? But I'm always glad I did. I'm always at the end, even if I didn't absolutely love it, I'm glad that I tried, because here's the thing, even when it doesn't come out right, I can tell why, and now for the next time, I know what to do and what not to do. So it always helps. But yeah, on the technical side, that is what lately I have been really into. I have been really into just painting more full bodies, more poses, and I think it also allows you to tell a little more of a story, because I've always been a fan of just facial expressions being everything you need to be able to tell what's going on, you know, like, I love that. And I guess in a sense, now going back to the deeper reason why I love portraits, just thinking to myself out loud, that might be one of the many reasons why I love them as well. I just love facial expressions and trying to read them, trying to understand, because I am an overthinker. I see somebody looking at me and I will try to read every single thought you've ever had of me based on that face. Probably you're not even thinking of me. Probably you're not even looking at me. You're looking at something behind me. I'll still overthink and try to read your expression into, do they hate me or do they not, right? So I think that might also translate as to why I love portraits so much. And I love when they have, I guess I would call it more of an ambiguous facial expression. Like, I don't particularly love painting faces that are very obvious. Like, you can tell, like, oh, they're smiling, they're laughing, teeth out, you know, duh, they're happy. I love great. I love when there's a little more of a space for you to interpret what is going on. And I mean, not saying you can't do that with a smile, but I love particularly those facial expressions that, depending on the day, depending on what I'm going through, even I go back to that painting and I interpret something different. I do that all the time. I'm like painting things just because I want to. Like, I don't always have a story, even though I love to do that. I just paint sometimes because I want to. And days later, I'm like, I bet I painted that because of this reason. And then days later, when I'm feeling different, I'm like, no, scratch that. I think I painted. So I can project my current emotions into that painting. And I guess that's one of the things that makes art so enjoyable, because you can do that. You know, that's what they say, that art is, what is it? I love when I'm gonna quote things and I don't really know what the quote is. Like, art is subjective. Art is subjective. So yeah, even though I might have felt something at the moment I painted, later when I am coming at it as a viewer rather than the artist, even I sometimes see something different every single time. And that's what's so great about it. But yeah, I have been trying to do that. Also, I know I have mentioned her so much. Please, I'm sorry, don't be mad at me. But Frida Kahlo, right? I think I've made like 3 different videos talking about like studying Frida Kahlo, painting Frida Kahlo, inspiration for Frida Kahlo. I know. But hear me out. The thing is that she is one of my main inspirations when it comes to my portraits, but also to the way that I tell stories through my paintings. Because something that I have noticed a lot is that, first of all, I don't particularly try to have my art be so realistic. I don't even know exactly how to define the way I paint, and I guess I don't have to, but you know, it's normal. Sometimes you wanna understand what you're doing, the meaning of it, you wanna know everything. And sometimes I try to like go back to my art and say, oh, you know, it's a little bit more in the impressionist side because, you know, the brush strokes, but then other days I try to be a little more realistic. I'm not even very consistent with that art style, and for a long time that frustrated me because I felt like you had to be. But lately I've just been letting myself paint, and that has been so life-changing because I used to focus so much in what exactly my technique is that sometimes I would just ruin a painting because halfway through it I would realize that I was blending it a little too much, but my style is, you know, like the brush strokes not being too blended. So on top of that I would like try to paint over it, but like I've ruined so many paintings just worrying about art styles and techniques and all of that. Like now I just let myself paint. And the reason why I say Frida Kahlo has been an inspiration for me on that is because observing her paintings, you can tell a similar thing. Sometimes her portraits are very realistic. Sometimes you can tell there is an element that is not supposed to be taken as realistic. Like you'd see a lot of elements there for symbolic reasons that are just there. You'd see a baby just hanging in the middle of the air, you know, rather than being held. There's not a lot of real life rules into her paintings, and that's what I've been trying to do now. Like sometimes I just want to have something on the canvas, I will put it on the canvas. Also, I have been also inspired by her. I have been writing on some of my paintings, and I love it so much because even though I enjoy, like I said, being able to interpret a painting's meaning, I think that's also a fun thing, to just being very direct and very clear. This is what this painting means. Now, you can interpret it however you like. I love that. But, you know, you can do both. You can understand what the artist was trying to express while being like, this is what I feel about this painting, you know? And yeah, I have been doing that a lot, where I try to be a little more literal. And I don't know if literal is the correct word because her art is full of symbolism, but the reason why I say it's literal, it's because some things are just there. Even though they are symbolic, it's literal in the sense that you know exactly what she's trying to say, you know? So that is what I have been trying to do a little bit with my art. Not so much, like I haven't done that so much yet. I have done it with a couple of paintings, but I love that I had been able to include that new element to some of my paintings. And again, going back to hers, they're very different. Some of them are just portraits, some of them are very abstract ideas and a lot going on. And I thought, you know what, that's what I can do too. I don't have to decide what niche or what box to fit in. I'm just gonna be a little bit in all of them. And that is why I'm so inspired by Frida Kahlo. Okay, so now next thing that I have been really inspired about is, well, is this even a new thing? It's fantasy. You know I love fantasy. I love reading fantasy, I love watching fantasy, painting it, looking at it, everything. I love everything about fantasy. And I have been doing a little series that I swear it's still going. It's just, you know me, I forget about things, I take breaks about things, and my mind is, okay, I don't know if you've seen these, but I saw this post, I think it was a meme, of like, you're either a Leonardo da Vinci or a Michelangelo. You know, because Leonardo da Vinci, he was very messy with his stuff, a lot of unfinished art, and Michelangelo was the opposite. I am a Da Vinci, okay? I love art. Art is my passion. Every single day I draw, every single day I paint. Will I finish every painting I start? No. Will I finish every sketch? No. Will I remember what? No, I won't. No. But I create, and that's what makes me happy. I swear I'm trying to work on it. So I am trying to work on it. I have journals now. I write to-do lists. I have reminders on my phone. That's new. So I'm working on it. But yeah, I still have so many other fairy tales I want to paint. Actually, now that you mention it, I am currently working on another one because I'm doing a little bit of like the writing first because I like to write the idea before I sketch it out. It just helps me visualize it more. But I'm currently working on my next one, so that's coming, stay tuned. But yeah, fairy tales have always been a huge inspiration for me because I love the thing I love about fairy tales is when they don't necessarily make a lot of sense. And it's like, I can tell there's like a meaning behind that. Like there's a lot of extra things that are just there to be there. I love that. I love that so much. I love when they're not so literal. I love when they're so abstract. I love when you're like, what? I love that so much. And I have been trying to write my stories that, you know, the ones that I do make up myself with a little bit of that into it. Like, I don't want anything to be meaningless, so everything I include, it does have a meaning to be there, but I like it when it feels a little bit flamboyant. Like, a little bit, that's crazy, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's been a huge inspiration for me. One of the series that I have been working on where you can really see that is the one where I'm working on the different phases of me, which is, I've mentioned it before, but I'm later gonna do a video dedicated only to that series. It's so early on the series. I've just painted like 4 or 5 paintings where I'm actually planning to do a lot more. So here it's mostly about my mental health, but I'm trying to represent it in a story that doesn't literally tell you like my everyday, this is what happened, this, you know. I'm trying to turn it into a story inspired on these fairy tales where it's something that you can tell is applied to real life. It's been told in a very abstract way. So that has been my inspiration, and I have added a lot of little elements, you know, like things that feel like you're looking into a fairy tale. So yeah, that's been a huge inspiration for me. And this one, I have not really started painting it yet. This is more like things that I am going to start planning, like sketching and stuff, because I have been seeing a lot of it and I'm like, I need to make art like this. It's called, I think it's dreamcore, because I know there's a name to every aesthetic and to every core. So the way that I have found the inspiration for it has been by looking up the word dreamcore, and I think it also ties up a little with kind of like the idea that I've been trying to create series that interpret my thoughts, my feelings, dreams, all of that in a non-literal way. And I think that's the perfect way to do it. I love when things on a painting just sometimes make you feel a little tiny bit unsettled, you know? Like, I'm not saying I have ever made art like that, at least not that I'm aware. Actually, I have, like 1 or 2. But they're not really like that, like, ooh, it's unsettling. It's more like I'm trying to dive into that where I want the feeling of the painting to reflect the meaning as well. For example, if I am trying to portray through my painting a feeling of discomfort or a feeling of, you know, this is coming from a nightmare, or this is coming from some negative thought that I'm trying to create into something beautiful. But I also wanted to have a little bit of that vibe into it, you know, like I want it to be, if it's a painting about discomfort, I want it to be a little discomforting, you know what I mean? A little bit like, ooh, but not in a way that you want to look away, in a way you want to keep looking, right? So I think that like dreamcore aesthetic to it it's perfect. And like I said, I have not really done a lot of work that relates to that at all, so I'm still just, you know, gathering pictures on my Pinterest, just making boards, because that is the first step to everything. If you don't have a board on your Pinterest, are you ever gonna do it? No. I have a board on my Pinterest for sandwiches, just so that I know what sandwich I want to make later. So yeah, I'm still at that stage. We're still in stage 1. We're making Pinterest boards, but that's coming. Another one that I have loved for so long, but it just happened to also be really trendy lately, is that coquette aesthetic. Even though a lot of the things that I really enjoy are not really coquette, but lately, because it's become really trendy, some people try to mesh like a lot of things into coquette. So I guess it kind of summarizes everything. So please don't come for me when I mention some things that you're like, that is not coquette. I know, okay, but if you look it up, on Pinterest, on TikTok, on anywhere, you look up coquette, you will still find these things. So I'm just gonna still mention them as coquette. And it's just that soft pink cutesy vibe with a little undertone of like there's something else there, you know, which I guess it's similar to what I was saying about the dream core. I'm trying so hard not to say aesthetic every 2 seconds, but you know it's hard. But yeah, it's similar to that, because I love when there is more than one feeling to a painting. I love when there's something underneath, you know? Even when I make a really, really like cutesy thing, I don't do it all the time, but my favorite paintings I've done are the ones where, even if I maybe don't translate it well through my painting, but that I know myself, there is like a different meaning to it, you know? I love the combination of really cute and really dark things together. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly, but I know, you know, if you know, you know. I like to add little elements that are inspired from that. Like I love the little pearls, the bows, all of those elements. And I love pink. Pink's my favorite color. And for the longest time, I felt like there was no space for pink in my art, just because I'm very inspired by the classic paintings. I'm very inspired by the old art of, you know, Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Frida Kahlo. And, you know, you don't see a lot of pink, except for maybe when they're painting flowers. So originally, because I found inspiration in them, I felt like, well, if something I enjoy doesn't fit them, then it doesn't fit my art because it's inspired of them. So I've struggled for a little bit in finding my own identity through my art, and I feel like, you know, it's a journey. I'm still working on it, but I feel like I have found a little bit of myself through my art and just adding things that I love in real life. If pink is my favorite color ever, why should it not be in my art? It can be. And I have tried to fit it in some things, like one of my latest paintings that I worked on where I made it into the frame, because it may not have made a lot of sense with what was going on in the painting, but I'll find a way to fit it in. And same with the little bows, same with the, I've been loving the adding like collaging on the painting, adding little beads, adding things, you know, ribbon, whatever, because I guess it's part of just adding a little bit of my own identity. I think that's how I see it, because I just love these things. And sometimes things are just cute. Sometimes things are just enjoyable. And even though the painting itself, I like it to have a meaning, I think some things are on it, and the meaning of them being there is I like them. Because I used to say like, oh, they don't have a meaning. No, they do. They do. Liking it, being a part of me, being something I enjoy, making me happy, that has a meaning too. That's meaningful. And I think that is such a, like, something I've noticed a lot with my art sometimes in the past, but also in general, like the way that people appreciate art, is that usually I would see a lot of people praise art that was more like it was more serious. I don't know if that's the right word, because I personally don't think it is, but you know, like that's how I interpret it at the time. Art that was more serious gets taken more seriously, and art that was more cutesy and just for fun, it was just like, oh, that's cute, and that's it. And I used to thrive so much on feeling like people saw my art as, you know, something to be taken serious, that I lost myself in it. And I was just not putting myself in it because I myself don't consider me a serious person. I do obviously know when to take things seriously and when not, but I like fun things. I like pink things, I like happy things, that's how I am as a person. But when I consume art and when I create art, I feel like I almost have to transform. I felt like past. And now I have been allowing myself to just find myself in art again. So it's almost like I'm starting over with this love relationship with art. You know, we're giving each other a new chance. And yeah, I have been enjoying it so much. It has made such a big difference, and I really do feel like that is why I have mentioned it so many times, and I mentioned it today again. I have felt such a desire to paint lately. Like, I do not remember the last time I had an art block, and I think it's because of that. I don't think it's never gonna happen again. I think art blocks are normal. It's sometimes even necessary. It's like a moment where your brain goes, it's time for a change, what we're doing is not working, so it helps you like regather your thoughts and go back to the planning. But yeah, I think the reason why I have been enjoying painting so much lately and not having to take breaks in between is because I have allowed myself to be myself through my art a little more, and I enjoy every moment of it. I don't feel at the end of the painting like I did it because I felt like I had to, or I did it because this is what people wanted to see. I always feel satisfied at the end, and that's crazy. That's something, I mean, it's crazy that it's not something that I've experienced a lot, but I guess, again, it's a normal thing. But yeah, today I just wanted to share that with you, just hopefully maybe inspire you as well, because now that I have been feeling so much inspiration and desire to paint, I'm like, I want to share it. I want to pass it forward because I know what it's like when you don't feel this at all. So hopefully, if this helps even just a little bit, that'll be great. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will be sharing more of my paintings, like full time lapses, full videos and descriptions, and talking more about the technical side of my art, all on my Patreon. So if you want to check that out, I will have the link, but this is all for now. I'll see you next time. Bye!